Hi, my name's Martin. I'm a Christian man, but I haven't always been a Christian man. It's only been about 17 years or so. And I've got a condition that people call Morgellons nowadays. When I had it like 40 years ago. And the reason I'm making these videos, this first one, is to explain to people how I, who am just an IT support engineer, know something more than the doctors about Morgellons, about how it's caused and how to get it off of you. So here's the deal. Way back when I was like 17, I think I was a senior in high school, I noticed I had some kind of problem. It seemed like something was stuck in my hair. And my mom sent me to the family doctor, and the family doctor sent me to a nearby dermatologist. And I think it was maybe my third or fourth visit, the dermatologist told me, you know what, you're lucky your doctor sent you to me because I'm probably the only one in this area who knows how to recognize your condition and how to treat it. And I asked him, well, how come you don't tell the other doctors? So he told me something like, well, you know what, there's a lot of competition in this business for patients in this area, and I spent like $2,000 out of my research budget. I went way over budget, sending samples to UC Berkeley to be looked at with a scanning electron microscope, until I could finally figure out what this was. And, this is a rare condition. I've only treated like one other person that's had it in the past year, so I'm going to lose money on that investment. And I'm not going to just give that away to my competitors. They went to the same schools, took the same classes I took. They've got the same resources available to them that I have. Let them spend their money like I spent my money. If they can't figure it out, they can send their patients to me. And, I'll treat them and I'll make back some of my investment that way. So I thought, okay, yeah, that makes sense, It's not something that's so difficult to figure out that no one can figure it out. And, it's like he's just being a wise businessman because he's a doctor, but it's his business. So, I had this condition and he treated me for it. And eventually it went away. Now I find myself having it again, like 40 years later. Excuse me. So anyways, I'm a Christian man, and the Lord Jesus Christ said, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So I want to do good deeds. I want to help people. And so I want to, tell you how I know this stuff and tell you what I remember. Now I want to make a disclaimer here. I don't have a perfect memory. I might get some things a little wrong. And I'm going to make another video where I'm going to tell you some techniques for getting it off you. But here's what I remember the doctor telling me. So I'm a teenager, and never been to church or anything. My parents weren't Christians. And I'd grown up in the 70s, and, I like to drink beer and smoke weed. I was a partier. And, the doctor told me, he's like, okay, so, and I told the doctor that. And, the doctor told me, okay, so here's probably what happened, see? This stuff is caused mostly by getting bit on the head by a horsefly. And so these horseflies are filthy creatures. They get their mouths into all kinds of stuff. They, they get into fecal matter, then scrounging around on the ground, garbage, all this stuff, right? It's in their mouth. So what happens is someone, maybe they're high. Maybe they're just not paying attention. They're outside, and a horsefly lands on their head, like where their hair is parted. And horseflies bite people, and they suck the blood, and they leave a wound. I was looking at the statistics of, the characteristics from a CDC study of this, where they call it unexplained dermopathy. And, they said, a lot of these people, they use drugs and stuff. And so, one potential way, I used to go up in the hills with my friends, Oakland Hills. I was living in Alameda, California at the time. And boy, I wish I could remember the dermatologist's name. I wish I could find him. And, it's like he had all the answers. And so he told me what happens is this. He told me, he did some tests and stuff, did some examinations, and I got what's called a triple punch from this horsefly bite. I'm only going to talk about one in my upcoming video, but he said, okay, first of all, he got roundworms from the bite, and he had me get some worm medicine. So, they know how to treat roundworms. I don't need to go into that. Then he told me something about bacteria that's also in their mouths. And there's sites where they talk about, one of the things they've been able to detect is like some kind of spirochete bacteria. It's really small. So that's already known. But everyone thinks there's no fungal cause. They haven't been able to detect any fungus. And that's what I'm going to talk about, because that's the main thing that's on me. I've got it right now. I'm getting it off slowly, like I did years ago. And I'm not having as much success because I think the doctor then gave me some oral antifungal medication. But the doctors, they can't just give you oral antifungal medication because you tell them 40 years ago you had this. They have to find some kind of fungus they can identify so they know what kind of medicine to use. So I'm kind of in a desperate situation, and maybe as a result of these videos, not only will I help other people, but maybe I'll end up getting help too. Because, the doctors have run tests on me now, well, it's like I brought in this little thing that I'm pretty sure was a roundworm larva. It looked just like one, and I, looked like these pictures on the internet of roundworm larva. I gave it to them, and I told them that's what I thought it was. I come back, next visit, I'm like, okay, so was that a roundworm larva? They're like, well, the people from the lab said it was too small. I'm like, gee, it's a worm larva. How big's it got to be identified? Obviously, it's going to be small. But they said they detected some kind of fungus with it, but they couldn't identify it. I'm like, okay, great. So, anyways, I got some roundworm medicine. He probably gave me some antibiotics too. And I think he gave me some antifungal medication. And so it's like what he said happens is when you get bit by a horsefly, it gives you, sometimes this triple punch of infection. And he said what happens is there's this fungus in its mouth, and it forms a thin layer, thin film over the wound, and then the skin tries to heal itself, and the fungus is in the way, so it just grows over the fungus. And so you got a teeny little pocket of this stuff, and if your immune system doesn't fight it off, it sits there and it slowly grows. And as it grows, it pushes up the skin, the scalp skin, away from where, it's from the main base of your scalp. And over time, you're totally unaware of it. It's slowly growing. It forms this pocket on your head. Now, this fungus, he said, sends out, it's a predatory fungus. He said it's very common in California, Northern California, where I live. And he said, if someone, was trying to figure this out and they detected it from some sample, they would probably think that the sample had just been contaminated, because this stuff doesn't grow on human beings. It's not like you can be outside and get it on your hands and all of a sudden it's growing on you. It has to be planted on you by like an insect bite before it can really get a grip on a person. And he said this stuff sends out these little threads. I forget if he said they were like a single molecule chain or a single cell chain, but it was one of those two. And the tip of it is like shaped like a barnacle, he said. And it follows, I guess, chemical trails, and it goes out. It's a predatory fungus, and it eats different things. He told me at one point, he said, this stuff like eats worms. It traps them. It traps them in these threads, and it immobilizes them, and it consumes them. And he said, what you've got on you now, it's almost like if you had a jellyfish or an octopus with way more than 8 tentacles, and only they're super tiny, and it's clamped to the top of your head, and it's been growing on your body. It's like it grows all over, and you don't notice it because it's so tiny that until it's developed a sufficient mass on your body that it starts causing symptoms, you don't even notice you have it. And so he said, it runs out of room to grow, and it grows back and forth, and it starts forming these layers, and you have to get it off of you. So I think he gave me some oral antifungal medication, and he told me to come back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something. And I came back, and he performed this minor surgery in his office, where what he did was, I think he used a topical anesthetic and a scalpel, and he took the scalpel, and just like if you're trying to cut some 3-ply paper with carbon in the middle, and you're trying to just cut the very top layer of the paper and not mark before, he very gently cut around, my scalp, where he could tell there was this pocket. And he told me scalp skin is really tough. It's like, so this skin that's grown over this, it really only gets its blood supply from where it's joined back with the main portion of the skin. So what's going to happen is the skin is going to start drying up, the layer of skin over this pocket, and it's going to die, and as you're showering and stuff, it'll come off in the shower. So I came back a few weeks later, and he took some little tweezers, and he plucked out some pieces of skin that hadn't come off, and he removed some things. I can't remember what they looked like, but he put them in a little silver tray, and then he told me, okay, so I think I've gotten it all off. I can't guarantee it, but I tried to get it all off, and I think the medicine killed it. But now you've got all these threads on you, where it was growing on you, where it was sending out all these little tiny threads with these traps on it and stuff that it uses to catch its food. And he said, this stuff, I can't give you anything that'll just dissolve it or wash it off. If I use something like that, it would hurt your skin too. And he told me all these different techniques about how to get this stuff off my body. All the threads, all the feeding threads with little traps or whatever they had on them. And so in my next video, what I'd like to do is give you some of the techniques he told me as I remember them. And, so you can help get it off you too, if you got it, or someone that has it. I'm going to make a disclaimer now, and I'm going to make it on the other one. This is what I'm doing. This is what I remember. There's a lot of opportunity to hurt yourself. You can scratch yourself, you can potentially pull out a tooth, you can hurt your eye, all these different things. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling anyone to do what I'm going to tell you to do in my next video. But, it's like, if you want to give it a try at your own risk, then that's up to you. So that's all for now. Thanks. Bye.